So my name's Mark Sigler. I'm a senior director in the product organization. I work across the entire portfolio of the automation products. I was formerly an employee of CA. I left and went to Atomic about 2 years ago, and they wanted me back so much they paid about $700 million to get Atomic so they could get me. So it's great to be back. It's kind of like going to a high school reunion. I really enjoy the people here, and we've got some great technology. And I think this is a great time for CA because they've got a story that they've put together around this modern software factory that really resonates, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I wanted to take a quick poll to see if anybody here has a mainframe, at least one mainframe. Is that I think that's everybody. So everybody's got a mainframe, and I'm assuming everybody's got a mobile device. Is that fair to say? Everybody's got a mobile, and believe it or not, these things are more and more connected than ever before, and we're going to explore a little bit about how that works and how we deliver new user experiences and leverage the assets that we've got in the mainframe systems. So no roadmap stuff in here, so no disclaimer necessary. It's just purely for your information only. Our agenda is going to be to run through kind of the modern software factory, digital transformation. You've heard a lot about that at this conference. We're going to talk about Agile and some of the DevOps challenges that presents for us. How we can work in what's typically called a bimodal continuous delivery methodology. We're going to talk about specifically our product, CA Atomic Release Automation, ARA. And we're going to talk about how we use all these assets to deliver innovations to the marketplace much more quickly. So this is one of those build slides. I think you guys have seen this. The core concept behind the modern software factory is that we believe every company, regardless of what industry you're in, is really a software factory these days. And it's really key for the evolution of your industry and your company to be able to get your innovative concepts to market very quickly. When I look at the industries that I participate in as a consumer, banking and insurance and other industries, I've got more options than ever in terms of choice as a consumer, where I want to do business. I'm very influenced because I'm a technologist and I love gadgets. I always look at my iPhone and the apps on there, and I love being able to use those apps on my phone and conduct my business because I'm mobile very frequently. I'm on the road, and that's a convenient way for me to operate. So as a consumer, I'm very focused on how services are delivered to me, how modern they are, what the look and feel and the user experience is like, and what kind of intimacy that the company can create with how they work with me. And all of this is not new, but it's become more of an imperative, I think, for every industry. Regardless of whether your customers are internal or external, everybody has that expectation of a great user experience. And all of that comes from innovation concepts, and you have to deliver that through software. So these things are really key. There's some pillars that we've kind of embraced in terms of agility and our ability to change very quickly, to adapt and get concepts into the marketplace very quickly. Of course, we have to have security. Privacy is more important than ever. We see a lot of breaches and so forth, and so security really has to be baked in early on in the software process and pervasive throughout the entire life cycle of the application. We want better insights in terms of how our customers are using our products. And when I say our products, I mean your products. The products that you're delivering to the market, you need to understand that. You also need to understand how effective your team is at delivering quickly the innovations that you can to the marketplace. And we believe a really key pillar to all of this is automation. Because when you enable everything that you do, and automation first becomes part of your culture and your ethos, then you're able to provide a more resilient, seamless process by which you deliver your products to market. High degree of consistency, quality, resiliency, and you can do it with a reduced cost and reduced effort. One of the fallacies that I see often when I talk to customers, and I talk to Fortune 500 companies, Global 2000 companies frequently, oftentimes the projects are driven by cost takeout. They're looking to reduce headcount. How can we put automation in place and pay for it by getting rid of people or moving them off into some other capacity? And almost in every case, I find that is in the business case, but doesn't materialize. What happens is that we find that these people have knowledge that's valuable. They've been stuck doing grunt work. They're not happy about it, causes retention problems, and now they're freed up to use their mind and apply their skills, and they're an asset to the company, and they can come up with more innovations, apply the automation in a more effective way, and make the entire company operate more effectively with a higher degree of job satisfaction. So automation is an enabler in multiple levels. It's not just about the technology, it's about the people and the process. All of these things are key. So when we think about some of the challenges that we encounter in delivering on this vision, we often find things like cultural barriers, legacy systems with big monolithic code. We can't move that to the cloud readily. It's hard to re-architect, too costly to re-architect. A lot of constraints in our environments. Testing is a pervasive issue for a lot of companies. They don't have the degree of test coverage they'd like to, so they can't get the quality in the software product the way that they'd like to. And then finally, where we are spending a lot of our focus today is around the deployment and the operational side. When you look at the Atomic portfolio, we use a single platform to deliver across the entire life cycle, from dev through ops and around again. We enable self-service through the range of products that we've got in the automation portfolio. So we're very focused in this ARA product that I'm going to talk about today around the deployment and the operation, how you release software very efficiently into your production environments and through the test cycle, and address some of these other issues that you have in the development cycle. So it's really key in terms of being able to remove some of these delays through automation, reduce the rework, address defects earlier in the life cycle, which I think frequently refer to as shift left. So you'll hear that term very frequently. So when I think about the mainframe and its role and how we envision it conceptually, and I think this is a really key takeaway point for everything that we're talking about here. I can apply this technology, this ARA product, to just the software development lifecycle for the mainframe, or just to the distributed side, Linux, Windows, and those types of platforms. But where it becomes very powerful in my mind is when I have a common set of tooling that spans all of the platforms that we have in our environments. So we have the opportunity to manage parallel streams of development regardless of platform, and if there's interdependencies between these different application streams across these different platforms, that's what I'm seeing frequently these days. So I often hear about digital transformation initiatives that are coming from the marketing organization, mandates from the ivory tower, as it were. We got to, improve the customer intimacy, the way that we market to our customers, and that usually propagates or manifests itself as like a mobile application or a better web experience, things that are way out on the front end and generally don't directly impact the mainframe. However, oftentimes the development of these systems of engagement, as they're frequently called, so these systems of engagement often put change requests back that do impact things that we're doing in our systems of record. So there's an inextricable relationship between these two things. And even if there's not direct change requests that are required, they need to be managed recognizing that interdependency in order to fulfill the holistic value stream. So some of the benefits that we're looking for in this, and we frequently see, is significant reductions in environment provisioning and setup. We can work with the full range of existing mainframe tooling that you've got, so we're not advocating a rip and replace. This is really about having an orchestration mechanism for coordinating how you work with the rest of your tool chain. So it's very important to understand that the developers still have choice in their tools. They can keep working with what they're comfortable with. We're not advocating a wholesale change in the development tooling. We're just advocating for a layer of control and visibility across platforms, and using a tool, an orchestration tool, an automation tool that allows a team to share a common skill set and apply that tool consistently across all of the different environments. Significantly improves your governance over your release cycle. The most simplistic view about this and a way to think about how our orchestration tool, our ARA product, enables this. There's really a triad of elements that work in concert. So we have packages of artifacts. These are the things that get deployed. So the what that's being deployed out into a given environment, that's the second place. So an environment might be a UAT, sandbox, or SIT, or whatever your development phases entail. Could be into staging area or into production. So we have a consistent way to create packages of artifacts, the what, where they get deployed. We're using it, a model methodology for all of this, and the workflow is the how, or the process for how we deliver these packages to the environments. So you can really think of it as kind of this conveyor belt concept. We're trying to enable a pipeline of development that allows you to take the assets that the developers are building and take them through that pipeline of development using the workflows as a consistent process, a high degree of reusability in the process. So I don't have to create new workflows for every step, for every environment. When I put the three assets together, I can say I've got a package, I have a process for how that gets deployed, and I have different environments that it gets deployed to. I can reuse two of the three elements in every instance. So you get a high degree of reusability that introduces a high degree of consistency into your process. The other things that you benefit from in this whole development pipeline lifecycle is that we can do this with a high degree not only of automation, in other words, nobody touching anything, but we can also provide self-service tooling. So if you want to enable developers to be able to request specific environments, configuration changes to environments, we have self-service tooling that allows that. So a lot of the things that typically require some email from development team to the infrastructure team, long cycle delays to get systems provisioned and so forth, things spun up, LPARs reconfigured, whatever the case may be, we can enable a lot of that through self-service, reducing the handoff and the friction. So handoffs are a big cause of delay in everything we do. You make a request to somebody, you wait for them to fulfill it. If we can reduce those things, then we get a huge benefit. The other thing that's huge in all of this is that because we're using a consistent set of tooling that works across all of the environments, and if we can get everybody on the same page and using the tooling the same way, and we've got consistent reusable processes, then we get a high degree of auditability and traceability into how we are delivering in this process. And that helps you with compliance, in highly regulated industries, financial services and the like, pharmaceuticals. You're constantly being looked at from a governance perspective and asked to be able to provide some kind of audit trail in terms of how you're delivering these software assets to the business. So compliance is a key element in all of this. So I talked about this. I'm just going to reinforce the point that this is really about using a common set of tools across platform and in a multi-platform environment. So you could choose to deploy this against just your mainframe environment if you want to. You can choose to deploy it against just your non-prod development lifecycle. You don't, if you don't trust the automation to go all the way to production and you want to stick with your manual processes, you can. I don't advocate that. I think, but sometimes you do need to build trust in terms of how you do that. But again, it really becomes powerful when you expand it across all of the different platforms. You engage in a common tool chain, parallel development, facilitating the entire pipeline all the way through the different modes of operation, mode 1, mode 2, with full version control and traceability of all the assets through the entire system. So this is a really key point. This diagram is kind of an eye chart, but I think it kind of portrays some of the core concepts in terms of the developer, checking in code, review process, maybe change approvals or other approvals that are required, but ultimately we wind up with some artifacts or software binaries, configuration files. All these things can be put into a package. They can be deployed through our pipeline with the ARA tool to multiple environments. It can be mainframes, it can be distributed systems, they can operate in parallel. If we're going into production, we can manage things. We have models for managing modern deployment methodologies around blue-green, canary deployments, and other sophisticated deployment mechanisms. And since we can handle all these different models across different platforms, both for legacy type systems and applications, as well as some of the most modern techniques and tooling and technologies that are out there, polyglot languages. It's not specific to any language. We don't prescribe or adhere to any specific language that you need to use within our system in order to enable any of the technology. So I'm not going to ask you to go have your whole staff retrained on Ruby or Go or some new language in order to enable all of this. All of the workflow processors are designed through a graphical designer, drag and drop, point and click, fairly simple to use, and very accessible to all the teams. Visually easy to interpret and understand what the process is and how things are operating in the different environments. So as we deploy, we get the apps out to the market, the consumers get the benefits of this very quickly, and you're all heroes for delivering quickly with a very high degree of consistency in the process. So when we look at our automation business unit and the things that we feel that we're bringing to the table to help solve this problem, there are elements around how we scale agile, and I've been at this for quite a while now in terms of cloud adoption and DevOps adoption in the marketplace, and have worked with a lot of very large companies in terms of how they deploy these kinds of new software methodologies, adopt the cloud, leverage the assets. These are highly complex environments that I tend to spend my time in. And what I've seen over time now is that while these tools and these techniques have been adopted in pockets, maybe for the cool new mobile app, and those guys have a greenfield app that they get to go and develop with, and they get a bunch of new tools, and they get used for that one purpose. Hopefully with success, these things kind of percolate through the rest of the organization. So what I've seen over time is that we've got customers that are super successful with this. They keep onboarding more and more applications. We've got plenty of customers that have well over 1,000 applications that they've onboarded to this type of platform. We have an extreme degree of scalability because of our long heritage in automation and orchestration as a platform, so we can handle massive scale, huge development teams, global development teams, using this tool to deploy. And so when you operate in that kind of environment, we kind of have adopted a lot of this internally. We have very large development teams, so we kind of drink our own champagne, as they say, eat our own dog food, and we work with a lot of customers. And I think one of the things that, as a product manager, that I can do when I engage with customers is provide some of the benefit of the experience that I have in dealing with a broad range of customers that have engaged at this, and that they're at different stages in the journey. And one of the things that I can provide is some insight in terms of how you scale your agility. So how can I start on this journey, adopt it in a very stepwise, methodical fashion that makes sense for my organization, and then grow that so that this can be the way that we do things with some consistency across the entire organization. All of these elements, are really key, I think, to making your organization function much more better in terms of the software factory and how you deliver. I'm really proud of the fact that I've been able to work with the analyst organizations. Sometimes those guys are a tough nut to crack. They're pretty tough on us as vendors, but Gartner, for example, recognized us in their most recent Magic Quadrant. I've been again in this market. I've been through this drill with the analysts several times, and what we're seeing is a coalesce in the marketplace where there's a few vendors that do this extremely well, and the analysts kind of recognize that there's a lot of people that do this not so well. And so when you look at that leaders quadrant, it's a very small group, fairly elite group in terms of the people that have been able to do this very effectively. When you listen to some of the stories, and you heard Mike's keynote speech, I'm in an Otto today, and you hear some of the customer success stories about how we're delivering these things. It kind of speaks volumes that we're enabled companies to kind of pivot their companies, meet new goals, achieve new innovation in the marketplace. Some key things that Gartner's kind of recognized and called out as strengths of ours are our support for enterprise COTS applications. So a lot of the tooling in the marketplace really kind of ignores the fact that you have a lot of COTS applications and even SaaS applications that you can apply the same techniques to. So other vendors in the marketplace really haven't addressed how do you apply these new tools and techniques and the software delivery lifecycle to those types of applications. We feel like this is a big part of your environment frequently. Not everything is homegrown, not everything is greenfield and new. So you have to take into consideration all of the different types of applications that you have and make sure that your tool is flexible enough to be able to address all of those different scenarios. The other area where they've given us a lot of kudos is around mainframe platforms. Now, CA's got a great legacy, long-term history of creating great software development tools and other products for the mainframe environment, so it's a very natural fit. And we're one of the few vendors that have, where that's already part of our DNA, and it's built in and baked in, and we take it as a key part of our recognition of all the different platforms that we need to support. We can't just say everything is Windows and Linux and that's all we're going to tool for, and kind of ignore these COTS applications and other platforms that are an important part of your environment. Because what we really want you to do is embrace this cross-platform, get consistency in your tooling, get all of your team on board with using some of these techniques, because that's where you get the big benefit. Reducing the friction, getting everybody singing from the same page, right? It's beautiful music that way. So, in summary, I'm going to go back and kind of restate a little bit of the obvious, that this is really about enabling innovation. All industries are going through digital transformation. Some people will argue that no, my industry is not really changing, that's not so important, the rate of change isn't important to us, and that may be true, and it may be true for now, but change comes to us all. And so it's really important to be in a position to help innovate through software in your industry to stay as a leader in your industry. You know, we've seen so many companies where they get, complacent about their leadership position, and then companies come out of left field and eat their lunch. Happens all the time. So you want to be in a position that, if you have the luxury of not having to rapidly adapt to changes in your industry, that's great. There's still a lot of efficiency and capabilities that we can bring to bear that'll make you better at software delivery, and you'll be in a great position to innovate. We really want to enable agility, make sure that you can pivot when you need to, address changes in your market, your environment, and business needs. So that's really key, and we do that through this technology. It's very much focused on embracing Agile and the DevOps ethos. And lastly, the very key thing that we fundamentally believe in is that automation first. So that ethos should be part of your organization, part of your culture. If I do it more than once, I need to automate it. And I need to do it because I want to do it consistently in a very repeatable, high quality fashion. So automation is really key. I think I see way too many organizations where it's too easy to just go to the keyboard. I'm a smart guy, tap it out, I get it done, I move on to the next task. Tomorrow I may have to go in and tap on the keyboard and make it happen all over again. If there's a way that I can automate that, schedule it, make it so it happens automatically, that's wonderful.